Redditors who worked at defunct stores, Blockbuster, Circuit City, etc. When did you realize they were done for? I worked at Blockbuster. I was there when they started Blockbuster Total Access to compete with Netflix. You add movies to your account, they mail the DVDs to you. You can return the DVDs to any Blockbuster, as soon as they scan them, and you'll get the next movies on your list sent out, so you didn't have to wait as long for turnaround. Even better, you were able to rent a movie at the Blockbuster for free that you turned it in at. It was actually a great service. You could get tons of movies, and it was really easy to get people interested in signing up for it. Foot traffic in stores increases, the amount of candy and snacks we sold increased, we even had an uptick in paid movie rentals for non-new releases, cause parents would exchange their movie for a new release and get a couple for the kids as well. Then they started to change it. Restricted the amount of movies you can exchange each month. Different plans had different restrictions on what movies you could get, how many new releases, etc. It became really difficult to explain to customers because there were so many restrictions in place. After a bit you couldn't exchange a movie in store at all. Foot traffic died again, and the chain along with it. I did this for a few months. Had the 3-movie plan, so 3 movies at a time would show up, I would watch them and then return those 3 to the store, get 3 free rentals, and watch those while my 3 new ones were mailed to me. I watched so many movies that I would have never rented otherwise. It was great. I actually got to the point I had trouble finding movies I wanted to rent, and when they started with the changes I cancelled the plan. They closed up not too long after. Worked at Best Buy for a while, got fired, and then went to work at Circuit City. I knew it the second I walked into that store. 6 months later we were told it was closing. Best Buy constantly updated fixtures and layouts, designs. Everything was bright and new. I imagined that Circuit City looked exactly like it did when it first opened. It's crazy what a turnaround Best Buy has made in the last decade. When streaming started taking off with Amazon sales, Best Buy looked like a ghost town. Now it's always bustling despite all product being available online. I think they've really trained their people well. I've bought some high-end camera gear there, stuff I didn't want to wait for shipping, risk getting lost in the mail, etc., and I came in knowing exactly what I wanted. I just asked to look at it, they said sure, and I got to mess with it for a while with no hovering before I bought it. Another time I went in to buy a quick replacement phone for my wife. I asked for the model I had researched before, asked for the unlocked model, and was out in like 20 minutes. Walden Books. When one of 2 registers caught fire. The fire department put it out, but rather than pay to haul it away, the company left it, a hulk of melted plastic, where it was at the checkout. The store closed 2 weeks later. How does a cash register catch fire? Lol. It's amazing how a place as full of books and the F*C King plastic register is what caught on fire. I worked at Babies R Us for 3 years. For part-timers, our hours would fluctuate based on sales from the previous weeks. If we had a bad week, as much as 75% of us would get called off future shifts. It was so random. I could have 10 hours one week and 34 hours the next. It felt like the employees were not the only ones living paycheck to paycheck. That is terrible. Like, how can you even live not knowing how many hours a week you are working? A lot of retail works this way. The employees can't afford to pay the bills having one job, but they can't take a second job because the schedule is unpredictable. Worked at a Hollywood video. When there was a solid week with less than 10 customers, I knew it wasn't going to last. Luckily it was just my job for while I was in college. Hollywood Video may have fallen to time and progress, but nothing will ever match the high that I would get coming out of that place as a kid on a Friday night with 2 movies and a pack of Twizzlers. I miss rental stores. It was so fun browsing and then picking out some candy and popcorn too. I especially liked the one we had at the Albertsons by my house. It was teeny tiny little area with movies to rent, but it was cheap, and then you could get snacks at the store. Former CompUSA employee. The speed at which they started changing the slogan increased. They introduced and rescinded a rewards, loyalty program inside of 6 months, and they started pushing bait and switch selling tactics in our monthly store meetings. I handed in my resignation the day before they announced the company closing. I worked in the warehouse at Sears in college until 2007 when I graduated. We were regularly running out of inventory and everything seemed like it had to be ordered in on a case-by-case basis. I was the person in the back that loaded the tool boxes, treadmills, snowblowers, etc. into vehicles. When you're running out constantly of your top revenue-generating pieces, something isn't right. Also, they didn't even bother updating inventory. I had a friend there that walked off with a couple of big screens and nobody ever even noticed. I heard that they had a lot of things stolen. My dad told me how Sears had a certain tool set that he wanted to buy but they were always out of stock. When he finally asked why, the cashier told him that people would steal them all the time. Tons of stuff was stolen. I would hang out with the loss prevention team since their office was in the warehouse. The policy was that it wasn't stealing until they left the store, but they weren't allowed to apprehend them out of the store. They would watch on the cameras and then hope to follow them out to get a license plate number. I worked there for 3 years and only remember them catching 2 people stealing in that time. For those people, they had a car waiting outside the door for them, so it was easy to get a plate number and then the police would bring them back to the store later to ID with the recording. I worked at Lone Star Steakhouse. There's not too many of them left anymore, if any. I worked an open-to-close shift one night, by myself. Had 2 tables and made $12. I started a career elsewhere shortly after that, and 6 days after I left Lone Star for the new position the restaurant closed. The employees weren't told either, they showed up and the place was shut down by corporate already. Edit, did some follow-up research. Last one in the US closed in October 2019. Still one running apparently in Guam of all places. Guess I'll have to plan a visit, get me a Texas Rose. Second edit, the Lone Star Grill franchise in Canada is not the same as Lone Star Steakhouse in America. Just found that out. I worked for Borders from 2000 to 2008. When I was laid off, I was working what had originally been 3 job descriptions. They decided to eliminate that position too and dump all the work on my already overworked boss. Called it restructuring and other corporate weasel words, but I could see the ship was sinking. Still miss that place. I was a manager at Borders when it closed down and I was totally doing the work of what used to be 3 manager positions. I knew it was over when publishers no longer took orders on credit when I did corporate sales orders for teachers, businesses. I loved that job and the people I worked beside. Unfortunately, it was a poorly run company that was always 2 steps behind its competitors. This was family-owned restaurant, not a chain, but I knew they were done for when I quit. In my entire time there, I only remember feeling like it was really truly busy a couple times. More often than not we were slow, or completely dead. The owner made some foolish decisions. He would frequently give the regulars free food and beer. It was also a microbrewery. Since I was just the peon dishwasher, I was usually tasked with closing the kitchen solo, because me being there 3x as long when 2 people get it done in half the time makes total sense. Half the time when the owner was bartending he would have me turn the deep fryer back on to make free food for his friends. Hooray for having to stay another hour just to cost the owner money. There were people in the front of house and back of house dating. Drama always ensued. There were people that hated each other forced to work alongside each other. Poor direction from the top down. The owner would allow his wife to wait tables when she was high off her face on pills. Before I worked there she got a DUI and had her license revoked. When it was reinstated he bought her, on credit, a brand new $60,000 Mercedes. She totaled it while drunk roughly a week later. I had 2 paychecks bounce. Good wait staff didn't stay. The morning crew for the kitchen trickled out over a few months. I quit in January 2008. It was closed by May. I worked for a Kmart in the early 2000s when the chain was starting to die a long, slow death. This location was a total *it show. The store itself was dirty, in an unrenovated and outdated sort of way. My first day of death, I saw a bulletin about how a secret shopper had asked an associate for help and he told her to F*** off. Training was a joke, and it was super easy to swap UPCs so goods could be purchased for other prices, as long as the prices weren't too high, not that the dullard cashiers would have noticed. By far the worst area in the store was the warehouse. There was never enough item stock when there was a blue light sale and customers got pissed, but other than that, items were incredibly overstocked because Kmart didn't give it. There were huge boxes blocking the warehouse aisles, so I literally had to climb over piles of haphazardly stacked stuff. I quit that job after I decided that I wasn't going to break my neck for minimum wage. The only amusing thing about this job was that Pokémon had started to become wildly popular in the United States, and Kmart had these little Pokémon plushies, kind of like Beanie Babies, that were just kept on bins and shelves, so of course these things ended up all over the store due to little kids. I did cleaning and store tidying tasks, so I really did have to catch 'em all. I worked at a Radio Shack in college. I knew they were done for before I even applied, I just needed some pocket money for weed and a WoW subscription. I worked at Blockbuster, but I quit a few years before they finally bit the dust. Probably we could tell that they were going under when they started chasing Netflix and copying them rather than trying to find a way to actually do something new. Of course, plenty of employees on I Hate Blockbuster swore they saw it coming for years. Also, when nobody could get a decent manager to stay on, that was a pretty big red light. I worked there as well, and honestly thought they had something good going. Back when Netflix was still a DVD by mail service, Blockbuster had the perk of being able to rent any DVD online and return in store. You'd also get another rental for free immediately instead of waiting for the two-way mail cycle. It seemed like the best of both worlds until streaming started taking over. I worked for Kodak in the mid-1990s. Digital photography was emerging, but emulsion chemical photography was already moving to minilabs, away from wholesale mass production. Management were always talking down digital and talking up our long-term future. Kodak even brought out a new film format in about 1995, with a magnetic strip on the film. High-tech mate. Among workers, most felt we were doomed, but equally most of the older people, and many had been there 20 or more years, seemed to think they'd be okay for a few more years. Our CEO used to come and give speeches about how we had a future as long as we did not seek pay rises. He later became CEO of Telstra, Australia's largest telecommunications company. There, he made expensive takeovers of White Pages, the paper phone directory, and Trading Post, a classified ad newspaper. This was with the Internet already in common use. He later became head of NBN Co., the quasi-government company responsible for building the country's high-speed broadband network, a much criticized, mismanaged project noted for complacency and lethargy, and a lack of ambition. There are some who want a nuclear power industry in Australia, and the man's name is often mentioned to head that. I didn't work for one, but I could see Borders' bookstore going down when Barnes & Noble came out with the Nook after Amazon had Kindle. Borders missed the boat. It's too bad because I like Borders better than Barnes & Noble. Borders sold an e-reader called the Kobo. I know because I bought one on eBay, and damn near everyone who was selling them on eBay at the time had gotten theirs at a Borders going out of business sale. Kobo is still in business. Their gimmick is that you can buy e-books from the websites of independent bookstores, and the independent bookstores get a cut of the profits. I worked at Qualex, Kodak 1 Hour Photo, Blockbuster, Steve & Barry's, Caribou. While they still exist, it's only just barely, and they've contracted a lot, Saturn, and a few others that no longer exist. Funnily enough, it was never on the downswing while I was there. Mostly, anyway. I should have companies pay me not to work there. Not a store, but a .com. I knew we were doomed when management decided to buy a whole load of expensive IBM servers to host clients' websites, just as the national telcos were starting a hosting price war. Paying for those things, plus running costs, which brought in $0 revenue, was a millstone too big for a 20-person company. We would have been fine if we'd just continued to deliver award-winning websites and digital media.